We've now attached our handlebars, our thread mast. I've got a power cable. I can plug that in. There'll be a still shot of that. It goes into, if you bought it from Pinhole Quilting, you'll have a surge protector. We always recommend using the surge protector, and we also always recommend unplugging the machine at the power point when you're not using it. It is a problem for the warranty if the machine gets fried as a result of a surge in the electrical supply. So please be aware of that. That is why we supply a surge protector. The laser light has got a little adjustable thing on it so that you can position the laser light where you need it. The laser light goes into a little hole that's above the rear handlebars on the left hand side, that goes into what's called the control pod or C-pod, and the other end can go onto the post that you installed in an earlier video, and then just twiddle the knobs and your laser light is installed. You can also transfer that post to the hole that's up here, and you can put your laser light up here. So say instead of doing edge to edge work where you're going right across from side to side on the quilt, we can actually put a drawing or reproduce a design you've already done by pointing the laser light to the side of where you're quilting, and that laser light, you just follow it and it reproduces the quilt in the same way as a pantograph, reproduces the quilting under your needle. It's a nice little technique. So now let's just run through threading up. We'll start our demonstration and our training that we'll be doing one-to-one via Zoom using glide thread. Glide thread comes either in this large cone, in this rather lush limerick colour, for example. It's a fantastic range of colours. They also do the 1,000 metre spools, and these are really well priced, and you'll find them on our handiquilter.co.uk website, where you can purchase all of the glide thread in both sizes. Let's work on the bigger size. So we'll put it on here. The preference is always to have it on this cone holder. It has a much clearer and cleaner thread path to the tension mechanisms. You can put it on this other side and we can have a second cone over here. You can, in addition, have what's called the horizontal spool pin, which goes in the hole that I indicated you could put your laser light in. Now that's for when you might need to use threads that are horizontally as opposed to cross-wound. This is cross-wound. It's designed to come upright like this, and it's how the manufacturer will have put it on the cone so that it dispenses without twisting. And that's why we put them on the back. But if it's horizontally wound, maybe like a flat ribbonized metal, or some of the King Tut comes on a flat wound, certainly some of the Madeira threads that I've ever used, then we would have the optional horizontal spool pin. And you can find that on our website as well. It's certainly useful if you're using the smaller cones or metallic threads. So let's just look at our thread path. As one of the engineers who came over from the States from Handi Quilter pointed out, it's a bit like an Italian recipe. Everything that is here for a reason. So there is no way that you can avoid any of these guides that are here. These are all here to help create really good tension on your machine. And good tension is what we're trying to achieve. I mean, we all want to achieve that. When you're starting, it might take you a little bit longer to get that perfect tension, but that's what I'm going to teach you. And it isn't difficult, it's just a process. Understanding the process is the starting point, and that's what we're going to go through. So, first things first, go straight up from the cone through here. There's a guide here, so it goes through there. Then there's a pre-tensioner. There are three holes in the pre-tensioner. You do not always need all three holes. For glide, we use 3, sometimes 2, and we skip the middle hole. If you've got a finer thread, you go to smaller number of holes. So if we've got a glide 60, I'll use 2 of those holes. If I've got a metallic, I'll only use 1. So it depends on the thread. It's one of the things that we cover in the foundation workshop. That pre-tensioner, which is this here, is threaded from the back to the front, from the back to the front, from the back to the front. So it's almost like a weave. After you've done the pre-tensioner, there's a little guide which takes it so that it's just above this tension assembly. Now, key thing here about the tension assembly. With a domestic machine, you have tension on your thread when you put the presser foot down. We don't have a presser foot elevating, lowering mechanism on this machine. Any of the Handi quilters, none of them have it. The reason being that this is designed just to do free motion quilting. That's all it does. Free motion quilting, free motion embroidery, doesn't do piecing, doesn't do anything else. You don't need a presser foot mechanism that lowers and raises the presser foot. Therefore, the tension is always engaged. So this tension here is always on. So when we want to thread it through, it's important to get it threaded through and what's called flossed up between these tension discs. This tension assembly is made up of the black knob on the outside, and you'll see a smaller little dot on the inner ring of that dial, so you can tell if you've done a full or a half or a quarter revolution. Then you'll see that there's a spring. That spring should not be compressed. You can wreck springs by just tightening and tightening and tightening. And on occasion, we have had situations where customers have thought, okay, I haven't got enough top tension, keep turning. And ultimately that just gets compressed. And that's not good for the spring. This tension then, these tension discs that are beyond the spring are where we're going to feed that thread in between. And we can increase and decrease. Lefty loosey, righty tighty is the useful mnemonic for remembering which way. On the Avante, it's very handy because when we put the screen on, you're going to see that there is a number, there's a readout which tells you how much tension you've got on. That's a very useful number because it gives you an approximate. So say, for example, we always use glide thread. I might know that on my machine, 320 is pretty much my go-to number for glide thread. It's a starting point. It won't always be the same. Bizarrely, and you might not realize this, but depending on the color of the glide thread and the amount of dye that's used to create that color, that can affect the amount of tension you need. After we've gone through those tension discs and we've flossed up, and I mean literally doing this from above, like that, we then make sure that it goes around the spring, so that the spring, as it's pulled, goes up and down, under the stirrup, through the eye of the take-up lever, through this piggy tail. Above the needle, there's a little hole just to the left of where the screw, the fold nut is, to tighten and remove the needle. And then you've got the needle itself, and thread it through the eye of the needle from this side to the back of the machine. That is how we thread it up, and I'm going to cover that in a bit more detail with a close-up shot. And I will be going through this with you one-on-one. It's going to be really useful to do this one-on-one because this is the area where we need to get it absolutely right. There is no way you can avoid threading this machine up correctly. It's really important. I'll catch you later.